City Matters.
Hello, and welcome back to hmTV. I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan of Ordinary Heroes, here at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County. I have a very special guest here today on Ordinary Heroes. She is beyond extraordinary. I've become very good friends with her, and I said, it's about time that she come onto this podcast because I'd love to hear her background. I'd love for you to hear her background. I can hear it over and over again, and she's doing some incredible things. Over 30 years experience in production, and she is the filmmaker of The Weight of Memory. So I am proud to say that we are dear friends as a result, and she's done fabulous work before and even after my film. And we're going to be talking about it. It's with Christiane Arbesu. Christiane, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
How far did you have to travel?
I actually, not too bad, because I drove here from Hampton Bays,
Okay.
but took an hour and a half, so not too bad.
Not bad, because in Hampton Bays, anything from the Hamptons, oh my God, you're sitting and looking at the same structure for how many minutes? Like 5 minutes until you get to the next one?
Yeah.
It gets awful. The roads are so narrow, and there are so many people moving into the Hamptons that they're going to have to come up with something.
They absolutely,
Maybe
especially
a tunnel?
in the summer. Yeah, maybe a tunnel.
Maybe a tunnel,
Yeah.
maybe a bridge, I don't
Yeah.
know. Tell me more about why you decided to do niche filmmaking like medicine, legacy stories, nonprofit organizations.
The reason why I gravitate towards those types of stories is that, it's the obvious that everyone has a story to tell and they have a message, particularly with, nonprofits or hospitals doing their types of stories, how they help people. So I guess my mission for me has always been one of helping, of service, and of bringing to light issues that people don't necessarily know about. Hence the nonprofit type of work, and about community, family, getting people involved. And in terms of doing documentaries on single individuals, there's always, there's always something deeper, something that you can ask someone a bunch of questions, but then as you get to know the person, they're relatable stories, right? Pain and suffering, we've all had that.
We can all relate to it, and
Exactly.
it resonates with your audience.
Exactly. And I think that, not just skimming the surface of a person or of an organization, but really finding out the reason why they do the type of work that they do. So, for instance, you go to schools and you travel the world telling your father's story, which is an incredible story of resilience and of survival of a 10-year-old living in a forest for 3 years. Digging deeper is why is someone like you interested in telling your father's story? What is the importance of that to you? And if you recall, when we were doing the filming, there were questions that of course, that were asked of you because, you're so good at doing it. I mean, you've been doing it so many times for so many years. But what interested me was I just wanted to get the emotion from you. And not that it's not that you're not emotional, but there were parts in the film, as you know, that were really emotional, things that maybe you didn't even think about.
I didn't think about those things. And when you asked me, it was like being hit, by a ton of bricks. Quite honestly, it just stopped me in my tracks, made me think about it, and then the emotions just came up to the surface and I couldn't help myself.
Yeah. No, and for me too.
Right, but that not just moves me, but it also moves the audience.
Yeah.
Because they're engaged in the storytelling and they're with me, and then they feel the pain as well. So you do such a great job.
Oh, thank you, Bernie.
At telling the story, because you videotaped, you filmed hours and hours of me speaking at home, in the car, at the schools, here in the museum, and you were able to piece it together to tell a full story. So you did such a brilliant job with that. You are,
and that's also Scott too, my editor,
Scott, of
right?
course.
That's Scott.
Let's give
who's
Scott
wonderful.
Roberts some credit because he is
and to Otto, great
Otto
DP.
was a great
DP.
camera.
Camera
operator,
guy. Yeah,
camera operator, but director of photography.
Sure.
And you, of course, the storyteller, the director, the producer, and your production company, Terabon Productions. Now, you have won many awards for your films and your work over 30 years in the business.
I can't believe
And
it.
people don't realize how important that is. Because sometimes they want to do a documentary, they want to do a story, and they get somebody new out of school and they think that they're innovative and they're different and they're cool because they look at their social media film and videos. But that's not really about storytelling. That's just a slick looking video, but that doesn't really get you engaged necessarily. You know how to pull people in with the story, slowly but surely. I noticed how you do that, how it evolves, the story evolves, it develops, and slowly you're pulling the audience in, and then you get them. And then you lighten it up, and then you pull them in again and again and again, and then you get them. And so it's like going through a roller coaster ride, and that's entertainment, actually. You know, you take people through certain emotions. On a roller coaster ride, you go through certain emotions, right? You get you're excited, and then you're scared,
terrified. Yeah.
And then you're scared to death, and then you recover, and then you're happy again. Right? When it ends, you're glad it's over.
Oh my gosh,
right?
yes.
So in a way, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. So you did a fabulous job. But all of your films are terrific that way. And they're award-winning films. What are some of your favorites?
Well, I've been revisiting I Am Arbesu, and that film is very important to me because it's about my family in Cuba. I went there in 2016 and 2017. And over the course of a year, I met my entire family that I'd never met before. My parents escaped in the early 60s for Canada. My father was the first ambassador of Cuba to Indonesia, and he wasn't a communist. Everything that he thought that he was fighting for wasn't happening. So it was, my whole life I always wanted to meet my family, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. And I had the opportunity to go in 2016. And what transpired is my filming this family reunion and finding out that we have so much in common. It's incredible how, DNA, blood, there were just so many shared values and so many likes. And, the whole time I was there, my cousins kept on saying how much I look like, their grandmother, which of course I'd have to correct them and say, my grandmother too, because it's also my grandmother. Right. But of course I never knew my grandparents. So that film really, I think it resonates with a lot of people because it's about, politics tearing a family, separating a family, and not being able to, the sad part for me is that, it's great that we finally found one another, but so late in life. We lost so much time.
Yeah. But at least
you're
reunited, you're reconnected.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that a wonderful feeling? There's nothing like reuniting.
Nothing.
I always say there are certain moments in life that are so exhilarating.
Yes.
That's why I like to go to the airports, because I like to see people reunite. Yeah. And then you want to see a wedding. Yeah. And then you're going to see sometime during the year, perhaps, maybe that year, maybe another year of birthing, right? Like a new baby, new baby.
Baby being born, yeah.
Right? And not necessarily the birth process, but a new baby. And it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And of course, funerals. So that kind of keeps things balanced, right? So that's the cycle of life. But reuniting is one of the most exhilarating things for people. In fact, a lot of movies base their stories on reuniting at the very end. Boy hurts girl, girl dumps boy, and then the boy's begging for the girl to take him back for the whole film, and he's jumping through hoops, and finally she takes him back, and that reuniting makes people cry. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Even if a father loses a daughter, right? At the end, he finally finds her, and everybody's crying. So people love that whole process of reuniting, but also reuniting with oneself. Yeah. Right? Finding yourself is a beautiful thing, and a lot of stories are based on that philosophy. There's a lot of films that you've done in the medical field, in the medical sector. and not necessarily for public viewing. It's industrial films for either a company that produces a product, a medical product, perhaps a storytelling film that talks about a patient's testimonial. Perhaps they use it for commercials, whatever they use it for. But some of your films have reached certain levels in terms of public awareness and public viewing. Some of them are on streaming platforms, on Roku, on Apple TV, on PBS.
Well, we just got that, didn't we?
That's right. So
yes.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And that's quite an achievement. It's a big deal when you have big outfits, big organizations, big platforms, big networks that, check that box and say, this is a great thing that we want our audience to watch. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel?
Oh my gosh, no, it feels wonderful. The the PBS, my career started at PBS. I was an intern on a show called The 11th Hour, and then I worked my way up, and I spent 2 years there. So the minute I walked into that building, it used to be on 58th Street, I said, I want to make movies and documentaries, and I want them to air at this station.
Right.
So it's come full circle.
Full circle.
Which is wonderful. So The Weight of Memory, I am Bernie Furshpan, and I think that also How We See, which is a short documentary on a blind musician, in which you saw in New York City, Tom Monty, I think is going to be accepted. So that would be wonderful. Yeah.
You also did another film recently, Day of Hope, the making of Day of Hope.
Yes, great.
Which is a half-hour short film, but fabulous, impactful.
Yeah.
Do you sleep at night?
Yeah. Well, I can ask you the same thing. Mind you, let's plug you there, because Day of Hope, you directed that in Israel and came back with the footage, and we put something really incredible. That was, I think you shot 9 hours
we did.
of footage. It was a whole day.
A whole day.
Whole day.
But even more than that, because leading up to the Day
that's
of
right.
Hope,
That's true. That's right. You were working on that.
We had several people contributing footage, for their preparation for that particular day. And we had, and we're going to be showing, a premiere of that particular
so when is
film.
that?
That's going to be on May 12th at the Great Neck South High School.
Perfect. 7 p.m.
7 p.m. So from nonprofits to global platforms, how does Terabon help organizations amplify their missions through films that reach audiences, let's say on PBS or streaming platforms and festivals?
Well, every organization should have a video, right? I think it's super important so that you can see, the people that work at the company. We bring their mission statement to life, and you also hear testimonials on how that organization has helped. Terabon Production does a lot of work out east, and for the Ellen Hermanson Foundation, we've done videos and films for the Southampton Hospital, and it's all about increasing and raising awareness.
Right.
And getting people involved.
It's a sophisticated form of communication.
Yes.
And business leaders understand this. They know that they have to communicate what their business is about. And how do you do that? Well, you do a brochure, you build a website, but there's nothing like storytelling, where people actually give testimonials about the company, and you learn more about the company by actually getting a sneak peek into the company.
Great. Yes.
Walking through the doors, sitting down with the executive director, talking to patients or customers, and listening to their stories and realizing, hey, my story is similar to that. And this is how communication is done on a sophisticated level. And every company should have a story about how they developed this company, why they're doing what they're doing. What's important is also to relate to people why people are doing what they're doing. And what's important is to show that they love what they do. Who wants to go to somebody who hates what they do?
Right, yeah, true.
When you film somebody who absolutely loves what they do, especially in the medical industry, right?
Yeah.
You have doctors, you have nurses, you have hospital workers, you have clinicians who all work together as a team.
Yeah.
And when you tell this story of how they work together to help a patient out and they get this level of satisfaction, that's your story right there. Who wouldn't want to go to a clinic like that, who loves their patient and loves what they do?
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, yes, and that's the power of video and film, right? It's, these stories, these individual stories, what it is, I see it as it's an encapsulation of love, right? And where there's love, there's just so much light,
right?
And you just bring business to you.
Absolutely, because that draws attention. Light draws, right? Darkness is scary.
Yeah.
You are a women-led business. And in New York State, there are several organizations that you are affiliated with. Tell me a little bit about it and your journey in building this woman minority production company in this very competitive industry.
Sure. I started it back in 2017 in February. But
I just want to make it clear that I want to preface the fact that you've been in the industry for 30 years.
Oh, yes,
Even though you have your company since 2017. But even before that, you've been in production for 30 plus years.
I have.
But go ahead.
Yes. What led me to start Terrebonne Productions is I built a company called Multiview for PR Newswire. Before that, I started my career at doing documentaries, working on public affairs programming for PBS. And from there, I worked at Reuters and at Lifetime Medical Television. That's how I got into the medical arena, producing films for physicians. There was a dedicated time slot from, I think it was 6 a.m. till 12 p.m. over the weekends for physicians. And after that, I started another company called Nextworks, which was affiliated with Business Wire. And I realized that the work I was doing was really satisfying, but I really wanted to do human interest stories. And I really, really wanted to focus on nonprofits as well as legacy videos. And that's when I decided to launch Terrebonne Productions. We also do a lot of videos for schools. One of our favorite clients is a school by the name of Stephen Gaynor. And it's a school that caters to children with special needs. And, we create these videos for enrollment and to just show parents, to introduce, again, it's about, love, community, introducing parents to like-minded parents. So they know that they're not alone on this journey with their child, because it can be so daunting to find the right school, right? For any child. So that really, it struck me as something that I wanted to do, to really get into the personal video arena. And hence that's where Terrebonne Productions, that's how it started. But, we're a minority-owned business, and we're affiliated. Well, we do some work with Women in Film, New York Women in Film. So that's one of our associations.
What would you like to do more of? What intrigues you? What have you done that you really enjoy and you want to do more of? What are you looking forward to?
I really love telling stories. I'm very interested in the older population. There's such a reverence, and they're just so incredibly thoughtful and so full of knowledge. I really have such great respect for older people. I love to tell their stories. I also I've been very drawn to Holocaust survivor stories, first generation, second generation. They just, time is running out. We need to tell those stories. So
amen to that.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for that. We need more people like you out there, not just telling Holocaust stories, which are very important to tell, but people have suffered in so many different ways on this planet, and they've sacrificed a lot. And it's so important to tell their story. A lot of young kids that I talk to every day, I said, do you know your heritage?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about your grandparents and what they sacrificed, how they suffered so that you could be here?
Yeah.
Because they went through perhaps a nightmare. You're here today. So how grateful are you? Wouldn't you like to know their story? So I think it's important to tell people's story. These are human interest stories.
Yes.
we should be interested in human beings. We're interested in a lot of things. Yeah. I'm interested in physics. I love cosmology. But there's nothing like learning about other people. That's why people like watching films and movies.
Yeah, of course. Well, because they can see themselves in it, right?
They see themselves.
So that's what, that's one of the things too, when we do these patient testimonial videos, a lot of times, they're looking for a certain type of person. Right. And my answer is always, no, you have to find regular people that we can relate to, not high-end type of commercials where you can't really relate to the person. But that's what I love about British television. They're the people that they choose to put in these series and these stories. They're everyday people, right? It's not out of reach.
So, Christiane, let's talk about the future of storytelling. Where does documentary filmmaking head towards, and how emerging platforms like streaming media and social media and global demand for authentic stories, how is that changing the game?
Well, AI, right?
Right.
So that's a big. We haven't adapted that as of yet. So, I'm not against it, but I definitely I've seen what it can do in a matter of 15 to 20 seconds. You can create a whole scenario. But in terms of documentary filmmaking, I still think that human connection, I don't think you can replace that. So I still strongly believe, and I could be wrong, in sitting in front of a person and interviewing them and asking them the key questions about their life. What interests them, what motivates them, talk about painful parts of their life, that kind of thing. In terms of the platforms, I think the streaming platforms are great because you can tell the story and you can get that story out there to so many people.
Pretty quickly, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because in the past, it was all about distributorship.
Right.
And
but
you
now
would have
you
to
can
go
even
to,
self-distribute, right?
Yeah, you can self-distribute, and people can watch it within minutes.
YouTube channel.
Sure, people can watch it within minutes, whereas before you had to have a distribution agreement.
Yeah.
You had to show it in a theater.
Right.
Or get it on television, and that was difficult because there were fewer channels.
Sure.
And the competition was even more fierce.
Sure. But yes, correct. And I think the competition on some level can be
Sure.
But everyone has a phone, right? They have the iPhones or the other phone, Sony, Google phone, where you can have people really be participants, so they can be part of the process. So if I'm doing a documentary on person B, I can ask people in that family to take videos of themselves recording messages. So it really can be a much more hands-on process. They feel really included, right?
Let me go into the weeds about AI. Do you think one day, let's say in 20, 30 years from now, that people can create their own documentaries?
Of course. Sure. I think
Where does that take your industry?
Well, 30 years.
Everything is changing, right?
I don't know. Everything's changing.
Everything is changing.
Sure. I think you can actually type in,
You can do that now. I know that.
Yeah, you can.
Yes. But it's not as authentic, quite honestly.
I really like that connection.
Yeah, me
I
too.
like that human connection. Yeah. I don't know how you can ever replace that. I think for me that's what's key. Every single person that I've interviewed, I've never forgotten. There's always something that I take away from that person, and that I hope I give them too.
Christiane Arbesu, thank you so much for carving out the time today to be with me to talk about your life story. And I hope it resonates with a lot of people who have careers in this industry, but also it relates to a lot of people. We all want to do great things. We want to tell stories. A lot of people are good storytellers, right? But
of course.
There's a lot of great people that I listen to, and they're just great storytellers. But to produce a film is a whole nother beast. It takes a lot of brain power, and you have a lot of smarts, and you know how to put it together, and you have a lot of experience and wisdom, and you do some great things. So I appreciate the work that you do, and this was a lovely conversation that we had, and I wish you only the best.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Thank you for having me here and for doing what you do. Really terrific. Thank you.
My pleasure, and I want to thank my listening audience for joining us here on Ordinary Heroes. Today I had an extraordinary hero beyond. Love her to death. Christiane Arbesu of Terabon Productions. And I believe, by the way, your website is terabonfilms.com, so check it out. Until next time.